5 psychology facts about mental energy. There's a specific kind of tired that has nothing to do with how much sleep you got. You wake up after 8 hours, and somewhere between brushing your teeth and making coffee, the weight of the day is already there. Not physical, not emotional exactly, just depleted. Like something in you has been running quietly in the background all night, and it never actually stopped. Most people call it burnout or stress or being overwhelmed, and sometimes those words are close enough to be useful. But they miss something. They miss the precision of what is actually happening inside the brain when you feel that particular kind of exhaustion. Because it is not random, it is not weakness, and it is not something you simply push through with a better morning routine or a motivational quote pinned above your desk. There is a whole architecture to why the mind runs low, and very few people talk about it honestly. Mental energy is one of those things that gets discussed constantly, but rarely explained correctly. People treat it like a mood or a discipline problem or a symptom of not caring enough. The science tells a different story entirely. The brain consumes roughly 20% of your body's total energy, despite being only 2% of its mass. That alone should tell you something. The mind is metabolically expensive. And like any system running on finite resources, it has a budget. It tracks what it spends. It rations. It prioritizes. And when the ledger runs low, it starts making cuts in ways you can feel but may not be able to name. One of the first things that gets cut is decision-making. Research from Roy Baumeister and colleagues introduced the concept of ego depletion, the idea that self-regulation draws from a limited cognitive resource. Every choice you make across a day, from what to eat to how to respond to a difficult message, pulls from the same pool. By the time you reach the decisions that actually matter, the pool is shallower than it was at 8 a.m. This is not a character flaw. It is arithmetic. What makes this more complex is where that depletion starts. For many people, it does not start with the hard things. It starts with the invisible ones. The low-grade social monitoring, the constant reading of rooms, the background calculations about how your words might land, what someone meant by that tone, whether you said the right thing in a meeting 2 days ago. That quiet vigilance running beneath the surface of ordinary days is extraordinarily costly. And because it rarely produces anything visible, it also rarely gets acknowledged as work. Which is where development enters the picture. A nervous system that learned early to stay alert, to anticipate, to manage the emotional weather of others does not simply switch that mode off in adulthood. It adapted because it had to. The hypervigilance that once served a genuine protective function becomes, over time, a default setting, not a choice, a groove worn deep by repetition. And grooves are hard to see from the inside, which is part of why so many people blame themselves for an exhaustion that has roots they have never been allowed to examine. None of this makes one person more sensitive or less capable than another. It means different systems carry different loads. The person who seems effortlessly energized after a long social day is not stronger. They are simply carrying a different configuration of what feels easy and what costs them. There is no hierarchy here, just different calibrations. Here is the part that tends to surprise people. The moments that feel most restful are not always the moments that actually restore. Passive distraction, scrolling, filling silence with noise, watching something that demands nothing, can feel like rest, while quietly keeping the nervous system engaged. True cognitive recovery requires something closer to genuine mental stillness, not empty time, stillness. And for people whose minds are highly active, whose brains have learned to treat quiet as something to fill or survive rather than inhabit, that kind of stillness can feel almost foreign, which creates a strange loop. The more depleted you are, the harder it becomes to access the thing that would actually help. There is also a hidden cost embedded in the way many people push through the low points. When mental energy drops below a certain threshold, the brain shifts into a kind of conservation mode. Creativity narrows, Empathy becomes harder to access, patience thins, and because none of this is visible to anyone else, you carry it alone, while simultaneously trying to appear capable and present and fine. That performance, on top of the depletion, is its own expense. What this all means is something simple and worth sitting with. If you have spent years feeling tired in ways you could never fully explain, if your energy has always seemed to work on a different rhythm than the people around you, if the things that exhaust you seem small to others, while the things that restore you require more solitude or quiet than the world tends to offer, that is not a flaw in you. That is a nervous system doing exactly what it learned to do, responding to a cost structure that most people never have to consciously examine. The mind that runs low is often the mind that is carrying the most, not the loudest, not the most visible, the most. If something in this landed, there's more underneath it. The way the brain learns to protect itself and what happens when those protections stop serving you is a longer conversation, one worth having.